Hello, I'm Angad and I'm going to talk about the Roman Empire. These are the topics we will be talking about today: Roman Empire, Roman soldiers, famous Romans, Roman crime and punishment, Roman gods and goddesses, and Roman life. Roman Empire. This is the Battle of Actium. Octavian defeated Mark Antony and Cleopatra in this sea battle in 31 BC, and in 4 years later, Octavian became Emperor Augustus in 27 BC. Now we'll look specifically into Emperor Augustus himself. He was born in 62 BC. He was adopted by Caesar, his great uncle, because he needed a heir and had no son. He had 3 wives: Claudia, Scribonia, and Livia. He became the first emperor of Rome at the age of 32. He expanded the Roman Empire and he died in 14 AD. Emperors of the Roman Empire. The first dynasty of Rome was called the Julia-Claudian dynasty. That dynasty lasted from 27 BC to 68 AD at the death of Nero. Augustus, the first emperor, his successor Tiberius, Tiberius's successor Caligula, Caligula's uncle and successor Claudius, Claudius's adopted son and successor Nero. And after Nero's death in 68 AD, a new dynasty arose called the Flavian dynasty. This dynasty lasts from 69 AD to 96 AD. Vespasian was a Roman general and the first of his dynasty. After Vespasian's death, his successor Titius succeeded him. He was a great ruler and the opposite of Domitian, the next ruler and successor. He was a tyrant, but at the end of his reign, he was murdered by Domitia's guards, and Domitia had ordered it because they didn't have a happy marriage. Emperors of the Roman Empire, Part 2. Nerva succeeded Domitian. He was a servant of Domitian, and he also gave a new tradition. He adopted the person he wanted to heir, who he wanted to succeed him. Nerva's heir, Trajan, expanded the empire, and the Golden Age rose at its peak because the Nerva-Antonine dynasty was a golden age of the Roman Empire. The Golden Age rose at its peak during the reign of Trajan. After Hadrian gave up some of the land Trajan had conquered to build a wall, which is now modern-day Hadrian's Wall. Lucius Verus and Marcus Aurelius ruled as co-rulers, but after Marcus Aurelius's death, his son Commodus really actually wanted to be a gladiator rather than an emperor. Now we'll talk about the expansion of the Roman Empire. This is the map of the Roman Empire in 117 AD. You see where Trajan managed to conquer a lot of territories. These were the important cities at that time: Antioch, Alexandria, Carthage, Pergamon, and Ephesus. In 117 AD, during the reign of Emperor Trajan, the Roman Empire's the Golden Age was at its peak. The end of the Roman Empire led to the crisis. The assassination of Severus Alexander in 235 AD led to the crisis of the 3rd century. After Emperor Aurelian reunited the Roman Empire after defeating Tetricus and Zenobia, he led an end to the crisis of the 3rd century. Roman soldiers. This is how the Roman army was organized. A centurion commanded 80 men. A cohort was made up of 8 centuries, and legion was made up of 10 cohorts, about approximately 5,000 soldiers. Roman legionary. The Roman legionaries could only be Roman citizens, and they only could be younger than 45, and they were well armed. This is a Roman auxiliary. Roman auxiliaries were always non-Roman citizens. They were also from tribes conquered by Rome or allies with Rome. They were paid less than legionaries and served 25 years. Some auxiliaries were part of the Roman cavalry, where we will cover on the next slide, but some were also part of foot soldiers, like this picture of a Roman auxiliary foot soldier. Now we'll talk about the Roman cavalry. The Roman cavalry were made of 120 horsemen, always scouts and messengers attached to the Roman legions. Famous Romans. Cicero was a famous lawyer, scholar, and orator. He was famous for his speeches, and his speaking was imitated long after hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years after his death. He lived through the first and second triumvirates. The triumvirates we will cover on the next slide. He studied under Pompeius Strabo, who was the father of the great general Pompey the Great, who we'll cover in the next slide. Pompey. He was a famous Roman general. He was a member of the first triumvirate and commander in Sulla's civil war with Marius. He also had his own civil war with Caesar. But when he lost the civil war, he took refuge in Alexandria, where he was assassinated. Caesar. He was a famous Roman general and a member of the first triumvirate, like Pompey. He conquered Gaul and northern Hispania. He also tried to conquer Britain, but his allegiance wasn't accepted by the British tribes, and he had to retreat. And he was also the father of Augustus and the great uncle of Augustus. Roman crime and punishment. The Roman goddess, the Roman protectors. Justitia was the Roman god in justice. Here in this picture, she is holding the scales of justice. They had no police force in the Roman times, but they had about 5,000 vigiles. They managed criminals like thieves and runaway slaves. They used Roman guards for riots if the vigiles couldn't cope with the riots, and the Praetorian Guard for protecting the emperor if he was at danger at all costs. But sometimes some Praetorian Guard didn't protect the emperor but actually killed him. See? Yeah. Roman punishments. If someone committed a crime, they were put on trial to decide if they were guilty or not guilty. The judge put the guilty person in one of these groups, the honestores and the humiliores. The humiliores were usually poorer and received more violent punishments. Whipping and fines were common, and for serious crimes, crucifixion. And this is a Roman fun fact too. Wearing purple was against the law unless you were super rich. Wacky? Right, yeah, wacky. And I forgot to tell you about Tarpeian Rock. Tarpeian Rock was named after Tapia the traitorous. If we go back to the time when the Roman Republic was just formed, Tapia was the daughter of the Roman governor of Rome. The Sabines found out she was in love with the Sabine man, so Tapia allowed them into the gates of Rome, but the Sabines were disgusted that she betrayed her own kind, so they killed her on the weight of their heavy shields. Yeah, Tarpeian Rock is here on Capitol Hill, and the Temple of Jupiter is on Capitol Hill. Rome, gods and goddesses. There are many Roman gods, and the Romans believed in many different gods and had gods for everything. But these are the most three important gods: Jupiter, king of the gods; Juno, queen of the gods; Minerva, goddess of wisdom, science, and war, and she was the wife of Mars. Roman life. This is our final topic, and after this topic, this slideshow and presentation will be ending. Rich Romans. The rich Romans lived in beautiful houses known as villas outside Rome. They had luxurious lifestyle, and they had servants and slaves to hold exclusive dinner parties. Fun fact. Do you know some famous politicians wanted to gain popularity, and they tried to hold extravagant feasts to increase their popularity morale? See? Shocking. Poor Romans lived in shabby, squalid houses inside the city where all the noise was there. They had a hard lifestyle and often abandoned their children to other people to find as a servant or slave. They were known as a Roman mob. They were poor but strong in number. They watched chariot races and gladiator fights. At those events, they managed to relax, and those were the only times they managed to relax. These are the Roman gladiators. The Roman gladiators were always slaves, and they had to fight in the public. This was a very popular entertainment, and these are the 5 types of gladiators we are covering: the Murmillo gladiator, the Thracian gladiator, Rhetori gladiator, the Samnite gladiator, and the Bestiari gladiator. The Murmillo were triple depth armor and a helmet crowned with a fish. The Thracians had a helmet, some bronze armor, a curved dagger, and a shield. The Rhetari had a net and a trident. The Samnites had a shield, a straight-pointed dagger, and a helmet. The Bestari had to fight the wild animals put there to rip them apart, but even sometimes the Bestari killed them. Thousands and hundreds of animals were killed in this brutal sport, as well as hundreds of people. Chariot races. These events took place in the Circus Maximus, a huge amphitheater that consisted of 200,000 spectators. That's a lot, is it? Yeah, that's a lot. Most drivers were slaves, but some were paid professionals. This is some advice to modern-day charioteers. More the horses, harder it was to control the chariot. These were the four main popular teams: red, white, blue, and green. These teams supporters were so keen for them winning that riots even broke out between rival groups of fans. This sport was very popular as the gladiator sport too, but it was much more harmless. No, it was not much more harmless. Drivers died in their early 20s. Their glory in their life could be short. But after winning a chariot race, they could have even more money and a palm leaf, a sign of victory and glory. This is the end of the slideshow. We'll cover soon in my next presentation about the Roman Republic.